Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Lenten lunch. My name is Casey Collins. I'm really glad that you're joining me as we continue through the book of Mark in this Lent season. And today we are going to be in Mark chapter 2, and we're going to start on verse 1. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now some teachers of the law were sitting there, thinking to themselves, "Why does this fellow talk like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone?" Immediately Jesus knew in his spirit that this is what they were thinking in their hearts. And he said to them, "Why are you thinking these things? Which is easier, to say to this paralyzed man, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up, take your mat and walk'? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the man, "I tell you, get up, take your mat, and go home." He got up, took his mat, and walked out in full view of them all. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." So it's a really great passage that we're in today. And we're going to kind of go back to the beginning and just break it down a little bit. So Jesus is in this room, and there's no room left for anybody to stand. A lot of people just really wanted to hear him speak. They heard he was around, and in his ministry had gained a lot of popularity. So these men have this paralyzed friend that they would really love to get to Jesus because they want him to be healed of the paralysis. So they are taking this man up to the roof because they know Jesus is in this house. And they go up to the roof. And just a little bit of context, a roof in those days was not made like it is today. So these guys are not sawing through wood. They're not moving shingles. Back then, a roof was made usually with tile that was laid down, and sometimes they put straw or some type of clay material on top just for a little bit of insulation. So it wasn't a lot of property damage that these guys were doing, but still, just makes a point. And to get to the roof, houses back then had staircases that led up to the roof, so they weren't hoisting him over the side or anything. It was a little bit easier just to carry him up. So these people are standing in this building, Jesus is there, and this paralyzed man gets lowered through the roof. And Jesus sees him, and the first thing he says is, "Son, your sins are forgiven." And the men on the roof may have been a little bit like, huh? Because I think, maybe they wanted the paralysis to be healed. They weren't necessarily after his sins being forgiven. But in this time frame, the Jews believed that if somebody was disabled or sick, or paralyzed, for example, that they were in that condition because of sins that somebody in their family or something had committed. So whether that was the case or not, this guy that was paralyzed may have carried a lot of guilt around in his life, thinking that was why he was paralyzed, because somebody had committed sins that now he was taking he was paralyzed because of that. So what a relief that would feel like if Jesus is telling you your sins are forgiven. I mean, it's just, it had to feel good for this guy to feel like he wasn't to blame for this. So then it says the teachers of the law were sitting there thinking to themselves, "Why does this fellow talk like this? He's blaspheming." They think he's crazy, just claiming to be the Son of God. And what a claim to make in these situations, unless it's true. So these teachers of the law are like, this guy's insane saying this stuff. So then he says to them, well, the Son of God can forgive sins. And then he tells the guy to stand up, take his mat, and walk. And it says that in front, I love how they put in full view of them all, he walks out of there. So in front of this whole room of people, in front of the teachers of the law, this guy gets up, he picks up his mat, and he walks out. And I would just love to be somebody that was there that day watching all this happen. You're just standing here and a paralyzed man comes down through the roof, and then the teachers of the law are telling Jesus that he's blaspheming. And then the guy gets up and just walks out of the room in front of all these people. And I'd love to see everybody's jaw drop as that's happening. Just a really powerful moment. And something else to point out that happens at the beginning of this passage, it says that Jesus saw the faith of the men that were carrying the paralyzed man. And it's a really powerful statement to make, to say that like these guys had so much faith that Jesus would heal their friend, that they were willing to do whatever it took to get him to Jesus. And it's something that we can all take and just think about today. Are we being a friend like this paralyzed man's friends were being? Are we picking up a corner of the mat and helping somebody if they need it? Are we being encouraging? Are we praying with people? Are we praying for people? Are we living our lives so that the people around us, we can help them get closer to Christ? And it was really convicting for me just to think about that, and that if somebody needed their mat picked up, would I be there to do that? And it's just this passage really just is a great reminder for all of us that the world isn't always you do you, and we're supposed to live life together, and you're supposed to be with other believers, and you're supposed to encourage people that maybe aren't believers and pray for them and do whatever it takes, like these friends did for this paralyzed man, to get somebody to Jesus. And I really think that God just looks down on that, and he just encourages that, and he loves that when people just pick up a mat of somebody else and just help and do whatever it takes, send somebody down through a roof, in this case, but just to do whatever we can to help others and be there for others and encourage others. So I hope that you take these words today and this passage and you really reflect on it through today and the rest of the Lent season. And I hope that it encourages you, and I hope that you have a great day.